Hello there and a warm welcome to all of you here on the news at 6 here on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tracy Shilji taking you through the top stories of this hour, starting with the headlines. Ahead of the climate change summit in Paris, India pledges to make economy energy efficient, promises to reduce carbon production by 33 to 35%. After getting a stern response on terror from Sushma Swaraj, Pakistan claims it has submitted dossiers to the UN, alleges proof of Indian involvement in terrorism. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the first election rally in Banka constituency, promises BJP voters a double celebration this Diwali. And US President Barack Obama renews appeal for stricter gun laws after Oregon gunman kills 9 people and injures 7 others at the Umpqua College. The top story, India has pledged to make its economy more energy efficient and cut its carbon emissions. This is over a 75% jump over India's present voluntary commitment. The plan was unveiled in the climate change policy statement released Thursday night. Here are the details.
Come 2030, and India will have reduced its carbon production per unit of GDP by 33 to 35%. In the intended Nationally Determined Contributions or INDCs released Thursday, the Union Environment Ministry also pledges to make the economy more energy efficient.
हमारी ऊर्जा की खपत विकास के तुलना में अब जो 20% कम कर रहे हैं 2020 तक, वो अब 35% कम करेंगे, यानी 75% की छलांग लगाएंगे हमारे लक्ष्य में. ये बहुत ही एक महत्वाकांक्षी टारगेट है.
Citing the need for financial support from the UN, the minister said India would target to achieve 40% installed capacity for electricity from non-fossil fuel by 2030. The pledges are broadly in line with expectations, keeping in mind that emerging economies such as India's have resisted setting specific targets to cut emissions. But India has no plans to establish carbon trading like China. Despite the commitment on clean energy, the statement also stresses that coal would continue to dominate power generation in the future. There are also plans to develop 25 solar parks, supply solar pumps to farmers and convert all petrol pumps in the country to solar. There will also be an increased focus on developing hydro and nuclear energy.
We are not part of the problem, but we want to be part of solution. India is not part of the problem.
India is the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Achieving the targets that have been set will be an uphill task for a developing economy like India, and neither will this come cheap. India will need about $206 billion by 2030 for implementing adaptation actions.
जलवायु परिवर्तन में कुछ देशों का ऐतिहासिक रूप से बड़ा हिस्सा रहा है, इसलिए उत्तरदायित्व में भेद तो करना ही होगा. कॉमन बट डिफरेंशिएटेड रिस्पांसिबिलिटी के सिद्धांत को हम नकार नहीं सकते.
The Climate Change Summit in Paris in December will focus on achieving a comprehensive and equitable agreement. With inputs from Vipin Chauhan, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has submitted dossiers to the United Nations chief, accusing India of being involved in terror activities in the country. This comes after External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj named Pakistan as a perpetrator of terror during her speech last night. She had also rejected a peace formula proposed by Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif earlier. Here are the details.
Pakistan handed over dossiers against India to the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on Thursday. The dossiers claim to contain evidence of India's alleged involvement in terrorism in Pakistan and links of Indian security agencies with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan outfit. Pakistan also accused India of stalling the bilateral dialogue between both countries. The move came just hours after Sushma Swaraj countered Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on how to deal with terror in the region. In her speech at the UNGA, Sushma rejected a 4-point formula proposed by Sharif in his speech to ensure peace in the region. Sushma also advised Pakistan to reject terrorism in all forms and questioned the country for not pursuing the 2611 case seriously.
सन 2008 में मुंबई में हुए आतंकवादी हमलों के बाद समूचा विश्व आक्रोशित हुआ था. इन हमलों में केवल भारत के नागरिक नहीं, बल्कि अनेक देशों के निर्दोष नागरिक बड़ी बेरहमी से मार दिए गए थे. मैं समझती हूं कि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समुदाय के लिए अपमान की बात है कि इन हमलों की योजना बनाने वाला आतंकवादी सरेआम खुला घूम रहा है। आतंकवाद के संबंध में पूर्व में दिए गए आश्वासनों पर अमल करने की बात तो दूर, सीमा पार से हाल ही में भारत में नए हमले हुए हैं।
Pakistan's handing of dossiers against India evoked sharp reactions back home.
I don't know how the Pakistan Prime Minister is contradicting his own predecessor. The Shimla Agreement was signed by the then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and the foreign policy priorities or the foreign policy approach does not change with the change of a Prime Minister. So they are actually contradicting their own government.
पाकिस्तान कश्मीर के मुद्दे को उठाती आई है और ये जानते हुए भी कि कश्मीर हिंदुस्तान का अटूट हिस्सा है, इंटेग्रल पार्ट है, उसके बावजूद भी वो इस मुद्दे को उठाना चाहिए। और मैं नहीं समझता हूँ कि पाकिस्तान के प्राइम मिनिस्टर या पाकिस्तान के गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से जो उन्होंने सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में मुद्दा उठाया है, इस पे कोई ज्यादा ध्यान देने की जरूरत नहीं।
Relations between India and Pakistan have hit a rough patch, particularly after the cancellation of the NSA level talks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And to take us through what this, of course, means on the global level and also bilaterally, we've got Pramit Pal Chaudhary, who's the Foreign Affairs Editor at the Hindustan Times, joining us from the capital this evening. Pramit, just looking at what Pakistan has done now, submitting those dossiers, obviously not coming as a surprise. It's, of course, using every way possible to make India look like the bad one.
Yes, Pakistan has long argued that India is partly responsible for the Tehreek-e-Taliban. The good thing about it is that absolutely nobody, whether it's the United States, not even China, takes this accusation seriously, and Pakistan has never been able to provide any sensible or rational evidence of this to anybody. I remember speaking to the late Sir Richard Holbrooke, Mr. Holbrooke, who was the U.S. Special Envoy Afghanistan, Pakistan, and he mentioned how they had provided evidence to him, and he said it was a joke. There was nothing in it. But as you said, it's really for a domestic audience in Pakistan to indicate that they are trying their best or doing their best to besmirch India before the international system.
Absolutely. And, just talking about the relations now, has it gone from bad to worse, as if it wasn't bad earlier? And, especially with Sushma Swaraj, that speech, of course, that she gave with Prime Minister Modi too lauding it, saying that this was a must-watch speech. And, the government of India, of course, standing by that speech of Sushma Swaraj. One of the strongest replies that we've seen against Pakistan on the global stage.
Well, the point is that up to the UFA summit, at the BRICS summit in Russia, when Modi and Sharif had a bilateral, the relationship at least seemed to be going somewhere sensibly. But after the joint statement at UFA, where we saw Pakistan strangely concede a joint statement in the word Kashmir never appears, Pakistan has felt, and I suspect it's the Pakistan military, has felt the need to compensate by pushing the Kashmir issue, by increasing activity on the line of control. And we've seen attacks in Kashmir and, of course, recently in Punjab. And I think those are a fallout of the UFA statement in which either Sharif overreached or at least the Pakistan military felt their interests had not been carried forward. Needless to say, India, therefore, has had to respond. India is only marginally interested in a peace negotiation with Pakistan right now. And we start to see the statements. And I think in Sharif's case, before the UN, if you look at the 4-point proposal that he asks for, he calls for demilitarization of Kashmir, end of the withdrawal from the Siachen Glacier, the end of the use of force, that each country should renounce the use of force. These are not a peace process. These are actually the end result, the end consequence of a peace process. This is not a serious peace process. The only thing that of interest, which perhaps India could have looked at, was the concept of the LOC ceasefire. But I should add, the LOC ceasefire, and this is where Sushma's statement on terrorism fits in, the only reason why there is shelling on the LOC is that Pakistan uses that shelling to infiltrate terrorists into Kashmir. So if you give up the terrorism, then you automatically don't have to shell anymore on the LOC, and the LOC becomes quiet. So it all goes back to terrorism as far as India is concerned, and that's exactly what the foreign minister said.
So where do relations stand now between the two countries?
Well, I think they're now at an impasse. India has basically said we're not very interested in we're not going to invest in a peace process if you're not going to be serious about it. And what's happened on the LOC and Kashmir is basically crosses a red line as far as the Modi government is concerned. Pakistan, on the other hand, seems to be unwilling or unable to act out what Pakistan would normally do in the case of India giving them a hard time, which is to carry out acts of terrorism against us. And I have a suspicion that's because of Afghanistan, the turmoil in Afghanistan, the Tehreek-e-Taliban, the problems that they're facing in Kabul, have meant that Pakistan is really unwilling or unable to carry out an act of terrorism against us. In that case, the incentive for the Indian side is really quite low. Only if the Prime Minister Modi himself is very interested in investing political capital, will therefore be a peace process. And my sense is that he's not interested. He tried up to UFA, and I think after that he's just lost interest for the time being.
Absolutely. We leave it there, Pramit. Thanks so much for joining us, with those details, making us understand that story better, right? Like you pointed out, of course, relations there at an impasse. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course, has got national politics on his mind. He, of course, led the charge for his party in the Banka constituency in Bihar today, expressing confidence that the BJP will win. Modi also assured that he will remain with the state every step of the way towards its development.
A double celebration this Diwali is what the Prime Minister is promising for Bihar. Campaigning for his party in the Banka constituency, Narendra Modi said BJP voters will celebrate the festival and the poll results this time.
बिहार दो दिवाली मनाएगा एक तो जिस दिन नतीजे आएंगे और फिर कुछ दिन बाद जो दिवाली आएगी वो दिवाली.
Modi said India can't progress unless Bihar moves forward. He said his recent US visit showed him what the state's people are capable of.
अमेरिका में रहने वाले बिहार के मेरे भाई वो बिहार को आगे देखना चाहते हैं, वो बिहार को बदला हुआ देखना चाहते हैं. वो बहुत आगे बढ़े हैं, लेकिन वो कहते हैं हमें खुशी तब तक नहीं होगी जब तक पूरा बिहार आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा.
Modi also attacked the Nitish Kumar government in the state. He claimed that the state has been held hostage by the ego of a few people.
मुझे तो चिंता है कि मैं 1,65,000 करोड़ रुपया देने का तय करूं तो भी शायद इनका अहंकार इतना होगा वो तो घोषणा कर देंगे हमें नहीं चाहिए, मोदी का पैसा नहीं चाहिए. अरे ये पैसा मोदी का नहीं है, ये बिहार की जनता के हक का पैसा है.
Stating that India's progress is not possible without the progress of Bihar, the Prime Minister said the central government had opened its coffers for the state's progress. Banka is the first place that Modi chose to campaign in for the BJP after the Election Commission announced the poll dates for the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now let's get you more updates from across the country nationwide. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has told the CBI that he had neither promised nor given any assurance to Kumar Mangalam Birla's firm Hindalco about allocating them the Talibara coal block in Odisha. Manmohan Singh, who also held the coal ministry portfolio in 2005, has been summoned as the accused in the coal scam case. 7 Indian fishermen were arrested by Sri Lankan naval personnel today for allegedly crossing the international maritime boundary line and fishing in Lankan waters. Their GPRS equipment and fishing nets have been seized. The All India Motor Transport Congress continued its nationwide strike against the present toll system for the second consecutive day today. Supply of goods to various parts of the country has been disrupted. The government has, however, refused to scrap the toll collection system. Still ahead, international news, and Russia has denied reports that its airstrikes in Syria are targeting President Assad's opposition instead of the Islamic State.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back to the News Exits. And now international news. And 2 days after it began airstrikes in Syria, Russia is accused of striking civilian targets in the country. President Vladimir Putin rejected the allegation, though, saying that only Islamic State militants have been targeted. However, there are concerns among countries that Russian airstrikes, which are reportedly aimed at Assad's opposition, are actually strengthening the Syrian president.
Russia released images of its airstrikes in Syria as it joined the anti-Islamic State coalition earlier this week. According to reports, at least 12 Islamic State militants have been killed in Russia's first airstrikes on the group's main Syrian bastion. But there have been contradictory reports that Russian airstrikes have targeted civilians, mainly opposition to President Bashar al-Assad. The West sees this as a ploy to strengthen Assad against the rebels.
The effect of these kinds of indiscriminate airstrikes essentially drives what would otherwise be moderate elements of the Sunni opposition to Assad into the arms of extremists, creating an extremist problem, or I guess I should say exacerbating an extremist problem for Russia inside of Syria.
But Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected the allegations. Russia assured that only Islamic State militant and their bases will be attacked by its military.
Того, что страдает гражданское население, мы к этим информационным атакам готовы. Обращаю ваше внимание на то, что первая информация о том, что есть жертвы среди гражданского населения, появились до того, как в небо поднялись наши самолеты.
We cannot forget about the political process, but we cannot condition fighting ISIL by, changing political system in Syria.
Russia's defense ministry said that over the past 24 hours, it had damaged or destroyed 12 targets in Syria belonging to the Islamic State, including a command center and ammunition depots. It has estimated the airstrike campaign in Syria could last 3 to 4 months. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
At least 9 people were killed and 7 others injured when a gunman opened fire at Umpqua College in Oregon in the US. The gunman was killed in the police shootout that followed. Hours after the horrific incident, US President Barack Obama appealed stricter gun laws in the country.
Yet another burst of gun violence in the US. The Umpqua College in Oregon is still in shock after a 26-year-old went on a shooting spree on Thursday, opening fire in a classroom full of screaming students. The father of one of the victims said that the gunman singled out Christians and shot them.
The gunman shot her. I did not see the gunman, but I witnessed her getting shot. And so at this point, everyone's also everyone's more panicked as it is already.
It's going to take some time for some healing, to say the least.
The gunman, identified as Chris Harper Mercer, was killed in the police shootout that followed. Police officials are questioning his family and neighbors to piece together the motive behind the killings. Reports suggest that Mercer was born in the UK and moved to the US as a young boy. The suspect's father says he's just shocked like everybody else.
I am just as shocked as everybody at what happened today. I've just been talking to the police and the FBI. All I ask is please just respect our privacy. So far you've done that. So.
The law enforcement investigation into the shooter and into his motivation is ongoing. We are not ready at this time to make any comments about him. Reunification continues at the Douglas County Fairgrounds.
Once again, a visibly frustrated US president pleaded for a change in gun laws. US Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton also stressed on the need for a political will to enforce sensible gun control laws.
Somehow this has become routine. The reporting is routine. My response here at this podium ends up being routine. The conversation in the aftermath of it, we've become numb to this. We talked about this after Columbine and Blacksburg, after Tucson, after Newtown, after Aurora, after Charleston. And what's become routine, of course, is the response of those who oppose any kind of common sense gun legislation.
The massacre is the latest in a series of mass shootings in the US college campuses, movie theaters, military bases and churches recently. Hundreds gathered at Oregon for a candlelight vigil for the victims. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take you through other international news updates in Global Buzz. A US C-130 military transport plane crashed at an airfield in Afghanistan, killing all 11 people on board, including 6 US soldiers. NATO has not yet confirmed the cause of the crash. The Taliban regularly claims to shoot down military aircraft. Meanwhile, Afghan troops recaptured the center of Kunduz amid fierce clashes with Taliban militants 3 days after losing the provincial capital. Clashes and street battles continued between Afghan troops and Taliban militants in the early hours on Friday. Paris prosecutors have launched a preliminary investigation into possible fraud over the pollution cheating software installed in diesel engines by Volkswagen. The investigation was opened following information received from an elected official and also from public statements about the scandal. Volkswagen has admitted that 11 million vehicles worldwide are equipped with the software that dupes pollution checks. Sports news now. An apathy towards sports persons hit a new low after 28 Indian para-athletes were made to spend the night on a pavement. The hearing and speech impaired athletes who were going to participate in the 8th Asia Pacific Deaf Games in Chinese Taipei were left outdoors as they waited for their visa. The athletes, however, did manage to get the visa later on Friday. Sports Minister Sarbanand Sonowal has ordered an inquiry into the matter. Ill treatment of para-athletes in India, though, is nothing new. In March, the para-athletes were made to stay in harrowing conditions during the National Para-Athletics Championships.
दिल्ली में सारे बच्चे 5 दिन से 25 तारीख से यहाँ पे रुके हुए हैं। उनको बताया गया था इनका अप्रूवल आ गया है टूर्नामेंट में जाने के लिए और वीज़ा के लिए बात हो रही थी। रोज़ सुबह से शाम तक सारे ऑफिस में लोग धरना दे रहे थे, बैठ रहे थे इंतजार में कि अब अप्रूवल आ जाएगा। रोज़ आजकल करते करते कल रात में उन्होंने बताया कि आप लोगों ने लेट से अप्लाई किया इसलिए आपको वीज़ा नहीं मिल पाएगा।
And now let's get you some on-field action in Sports Beat. India will take on South Africa in the first T20 International in Dharamshala in a short while from now. Both teams will play 3 T20 matches before the Tests and ODIs in the 2-month-long series. The Indian team will be led by Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who has returned at the helm after the World Cup. South Africa will be without the service of star pacer Dale Steyn. The top-seeded Indo-Swiss duo of Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis reached the semi-final of the Wuhan Open. They eased past their 5th-seeded opponent of US Raquel Kops-Jones and Abigail Spears 6-2, 6-2 in the quarter-final battle. Argentina continue to lead the men's football rankings in the latest FIFA World Rankings. Argentina were the runners-up in the World Cup last year and Copa America in July. World champions Germany narrowed the gap to just 18 points as they overtook Belgium in the second place. However, Brazil slipped to 7th position after a poor show in major tournaments. Liverpool's stuttering start to their Europa League campaign continued as they were held to a 1-1 draw by Sion. Adam Lallana gave Liverpool lead in the 4th minute, but the Swiss side equalised in the 17th minute. This was Liverpool's second consecutive draw in Group B. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.